G'day team, it's Chris speaking. Welcome back. So, I just got married, and it was a very cool experience, but also a very nerve-wracking experience for someone who is transgender. Now, I did speak a little bit before about going through the wedding process as a trans person, particularly someone who didn't pass so much when they started looking at wedding venues and vendors and things like that, and then going to being married to someone who passes quite well. Well, in my opinion anyway. I don't get clocked very often anymore. I digress. So I wanted to have a quick chat today about what the actual day was like, what actually getting married as a trans person was like for me. Personally, it was so surreal. It was very surreal to be marrying my person on that day, knowing that I was being only viewed as a male by everyone in the audience. It was very surreal. It was very heartwarming. It was a lot on my brain to worry about during that day, but the ceremony itself was lovely. There were a few people that I was worried about, because what happens when my family tends to get together is someone will misgender me or use the wrong name, and then it's like a snowball effect. People will start getting confused and using the wrong name, using the wrong pronouns, and I really worried for that day if that was going to be the case. And I wanted to get married. I was so adamant that I had to have my name change organized and that I had to have my gender paperwork submitted, so that if legally the celebrant had to mention my gender in the ceremony anyway, it had to be male. For me personally, it had to be that I was getting married as a husband and not as a wife. I know in some countries, if you don't have your gender paperwork saying male or female, depending on which way you're transitioning, unfortunately I think it's still quite hard for non-binary people to get married as just a spouse or a partner. In some countries you still have to say husband or wife. It's not great, but if that was the case for us, then I wanted to make sure that my paperwork basically let me get married as a husband rather than a wife. Fortunately, our celebrant was very cool with it all. He said, look, regardless of the paperwork, I will say whatever you want me to on the day in front of your family and friends, but the paperwork may come through as being a wife rather than a husband if you don't have your gender changed. I was fortunate that I changed my gender before getting married. It was something that was very important to me, even though I had trouble with actually submitting that paperwork, but that's a story for another time. I did also have to have conversations with some close family members about making sure that I wasn't misgendered in their speeches. I'm talking about my dad. And my dad, bless him, took that and he was very, very careful about not misgendering me at all during the speeches, because I think that would have broke my heart if I'd gotten to that point and gone through the trouble of getting the gender paperwork all sort of sorted to have my dead name or to have my birth gender read out in a speech on what is arguably the most important day of my life thus far. So those people that were doing the speeches were very, very careful. You could see that they were very careful when they were writing it. My dad sent Rach and I the speech prior to saying it on the night, just so that we could, approve it. It wasn't all that personal. It was just some marriage advice to keep it nice and safe. So those are some of the conversations that I felt that I needed to have prior to getting married on the day. Now, the day went off pretty much without a hitch. The day itself, there's a lot of stress behind a wedding, and I think the 2 weeks leading up to it, Rach and I were just stress balls and stress buckets, and things were going wrong, and there was external stress, and then everyone was telling us, you'll get to the day and it will be fine, and we didn't believe them because things kept going wrong, and then we got to the day and everything was fine. So if you are in the process of getting married and you're stressing about all those little things, then on the day it didn't matter. Basically on the day, any of those little stress points that we had didn't matter. It was about me and it was about my partner on the day, and we just kept finding each other and on the night and reiterating that It was just, it was perfect for what we needed it to be. But getting married as a trans person can be a little bit, it can add stress to your already stressful pile. So, weird conversations with people at the celebrant, anyone who was talking during the night, just to make sure that we were all on the same page. And getting married as a trans person was pretty cool. It was an experience that I never thought I would get to have personally. Before I came out as transgender, before I realised, I could not see myself living past 30. I couldn't. And then I met Rachel and I came out as trans and my world opened up. And that was a very significant point for me, was to get married. And it was just nice. Anyway, that was just a little, I guess, information about how I felt getting married as a trans person on the day. Like I said, I am going to pop a couple of photos up at the end of this video for you to enjoy. And this is my wedding day. It was pretty cool. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of it, click on my face somewhere down on the screen. And I'll catch you next time. Okay. Bye.